All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're going to kick off this webinar, which also gets in the attacker's way. We are doing this webinar with the purpose of integrating Silverfort and SentinelOne, and we will try to show something cool to you today. All right, so next slide. Yes. So yeah, we are Exclusive Networks. We are the #1 value-added distributor in the world. We focus on cybersecurity and cloud solutions. This part is mostly specific on cybersecurity. So as we said today, we will do a webinar with an integration between Silverfort and SentinelOne. We prepared some live demo for you to attack a host, to simulate an attack, and we'll show you how you can block that attack and get in the attacker's way, stopping his movements by integrating both products, both focused on their own specific part of security. We will give a brief introduction on both of them, and after that we will quickly move over to the demo, because that's the coolest part, of course. Maybe just briefly about ourselves. My name is Davey. I'm a senior technical pre-sales consultant at Exclusive Networks. I've been in IT and IT cybersecurity for like about 9 to 10 years. Background in perimeter security, firewalling, and I'm more focused on identity. To be clear, I'm the guy at the left of the picture, not the guy sitting at the right. I'm here with Stan. Stan, maybe you can briefly introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. As you can clearly see, David is a more fun one. I'm the more serious one. I'm also a pre-sales here at Exclusive and business development manager. 7 years in IT with the last 4 years in cybersecurity. All around security, actually, but with a focus on next-gen solutions, and also that focus on technology, but actually just spreading the word and just getting a message out about security and all those next-gen solutions.
All right. Before we start, I just wanted to let you know, if you have any questions on this webinar, just put them in the question box. We will do a Q&A at the end of the session. Try to pick up all your questions as soon as we can. Just to check, because I see here someone is saying that they cannot see the slides. According to our information, we can see them. So I hope everything is okay. Let's reopen that just to be sure. Can someone confirm in the question box that we see them? Okay, thank you, perfect. Okay, now we can continue. Thank you very much. So if you got any questions, put them in where you just entered now that everything is okay. And let's kick this off. All right, we start with a brief introduction on Silverfort, a very quick one. First of all, I was reading some stuff on Azure integrations when I popped into this one. It's a code from Microsoft, and it actually explains very well where we are at this time. Microsoft said identity is a new control plane of IT security. And that is indeed the fact. Organizations need to focus on identity as an access control plane. If you look at current networks today, we are a bit at the left side of this slide, where we can see that the outside we see as an untrusted environment. People have a VPN solutions on their machines, and they use it to connect to the corporate network, which we assume to be as a trusted environment. Especially with all the remote workers today, this is what we see a lot. Unfortunately, that is not the real situation. The real situation today is that we are in a hybrid environment. We have cloud solutions that we use, which we do not need a VPN for. We just need username, password to log in. Maybe some multi-factor on it, specific for that solution. But we are in a hybrid situation at this moment. This is where Silverfort kicks in. It's a unified identity protection platform, which actually introduces MFA, so multi-factor authentication, and also risk-based authentication on places where it hasn't been possible to do it until today. So Silverfort is able to do MFA almost everywhere. And that risk-based engine is something we will focus on also today, is actually putting some dynamic behavior into the product. Making it very flexible and very interesting in terms of protecting identity access. Silverfort does this in a very non-intrusive way, so no agent, no proxies, no code changes, no specific implementations, just basic simple policies, and create them to apply MFA into your environment, your on-prem or your cloud infrastructure. Like I said, there's a risk engine in it. It's very important to notice, because we're going to use this also in our demo. That risk engine actually is the heart of the product and calculates the risk of all entities involved, which means it can be a user or a machine. And it's about anomaly detection. It's about, do we see known threats like a brute force, like a lateral movement, but also the external risk. And number 3 is the one that we especially focus on today, because we use the API to actually introduce risk on the Silverfort product. And because we move and we influence that risk, we can actually influence the risk of specific users' machines and modify the way that, or the reason when they need to do MFA or when they don't need to do MFA. So when the risk goes up, we want to put more MFA into the picture, and the policy will activate dynamically because that risk is actually being influenced or is being changed. And I'll leave it to Stan to give a brief introduction on SentinelOne.
Okay, thank you, Davey. So most of you, I can see, of attendees will already know SentinelOne. So it's just a quick recap for those who don't know. SentinelOne is a rather young company, but well established now. They're growing very fast, have a lot of employees, a lot of different hubs. The main thing why I put in this slide is because they got follow the sun support, which is important. They even got a new HQ right here in Amsterdam. They have a managed SOC team, vigilance, with top tier security engineers who are able to actually just manage your entire endpoint division. It's a cloud-based management solution. So we got the data centers of Amazon that we use. But enough about SentinelOne as a company, more about how they actually catch those threats and protect your environment. So yeah, the problem, and you will see this today, is beyond those file-based malwares. And the typical malware, you will drop a file or you will download a file on your victim and he will execute. And in this use case, we're not even going to drop anything. So the first breach is completely fileless. We're going to use a Chrome exploit. More about that later. But so we see a lot of fileless attacks. We see a lot of PowerShell running, because when you're on a computer, you're not going to use any malware anymore. No, you're just going to use whatever it's available for you. So it's living on the land. Those exploits are just increasing every time. All those applications you have get more complicated and have more chance that they have an exploit that you can use as an attacker. And you get those typical script kiddies who runs attacks based on a script. But more and more of those advanced attacks are with command and control traffic, and someone's actually behind the other side and controlling your environment. So if you want to catch these type of attacks, we have to look at behavior, and that's what SentinelOne does. So the key focus on SentinelOne is prevention is key. It's still important, but you cannot prevent everything, so we have to focus on that behavior part. So that's a concept. We're gonna have one endpoint agent who combines the EPP part, so the endpoint protection, with endpoint detection and remediations, and with the EDR part. So it's one lightweight agent combined two. So we can still do prevention based on the machine learning engine. If we have a file, we can still catch that, but also that detection rate, because we're based on behavior. We're gonna detect something if it's malicious, and that could be one of the triggers we're gonna use today for our demonstration. Because we detect some behavior, some anomalies we don't expect of benign behavior, but we have to see the whole picture. We cannot say from the start, okay, this is malicious. We have to see what is the behavior here. But if we have an idea it could be malicious, that could already be a risk indicator for Silverfort, for example. And it's also important that we have the right response. So that immediate response on the endpoint itself. We don't need clouds. We're not reliable on any cloud correlation. We do everything on the agent itself on the endpoint with a quick response. And we can even go for a full threat hunting module where we can proactively hunt for certain TTPs. So very cool stuff. Last slide before we start, before Davey continues about the integration, is how does it work? If you look at the technology, we got actually, so for the EPP part, we still try to avoid code execution. So if we have a file, we can run our machine learning engine on it and look for any anomalies we see in the metadata of that file. So we can catch a lot of malware, even 0 days, based on a file with an attack on a file. Now, what if they bypass this engine, or if there's no file at all, which is usually the case, also in this demonstration, we have to look at behavior. And those are the crown jewels of SentinelOne. We're going to look at behavior, what is happening. It's like a data recorder or a black box who logs everything what happens on the endpoint, and we do the correlation on the endpoint itself to see for any anomalies or strange behavior, which increases a certain risk score. And that could be a suspicious or even a malicious event eventually. Because code is actually running and we're not sandboxing anything, because yeah, that's quite possible, like almost everything. But we're gonna look at the endpoint itself. So code is running, so it's important that we have an automated remediation. So it's a kill and quarantine. You kill those processes, quarantine those files if there were any files at all. And then just with one click, we can remediate or clean up your system. Any persistence that the attacker used, and they dropped a reg key or an actual schedule task, we can just clean that up. Because we log everything that's happening, we can just clean it up. And on the Windows, we can even do a full rollback, which just sets your files back in the previously known good state. Also very cool, which we're going to demonstrate, is we can quarantine an endpoint completely, except the connection to the management console. And even that we can tweak. So that's good. Something we're going to use also with our API integration. So a lot of cool features of an automated remediation. All this is being done on the endpoint, so your dwell time is just a matter of seconds instead of minutes or even longer, like a lot of our competitors who actually need the cloud to do that correlation. And the last part is our deep visibility, which is actually a very cool tool to threat hunt. We're going to send that data we use to do the correlation. We're going to send that data to the cloud to actually hunt on specific TTPs. So small dwell time, just a matter of seconds, autonomous agent, and we can query those all those data in our cool GUI on our management console to actually look for proactively look for some threats. Okay, Davey, up to you.
Yes, thanks, Dan. So a little bit more on our integration part. So we've seen for now what is Silverfort about, what is SentinelOne about. Actually, the goal of our integration is to bring those two together and take the relevant outputs and inputs of both products to block an attack. That's our main goal. If we look at the architecture of what we built, we actually have a Silverfort running, which is outputting us logs on who is blocking MFAs, who accepted, who logged in where, etc. We take those logs, we push them through a log stash, we do some graph pattern on it, that we get a nice proper JSON output, which shows us the key value pairs of what we need. We take that information into our Silverfort SentinelOne integrator, which is written in Python, and we use it to analyze it and to talk to the APIs of both Silverfort and both SentinelOne to do our integration parts and to trigger stuff in them. Now, before we look at the use cases, I just quickly want to talk to you about the API wrappers. Both products have a large API, and we developed Python code, which is an API wrapper surrounding that API. It's not a full code, it's not completely finished and wrapping the whole API. That would be a little bit too much work. But since we did it, and since we felt like we want to share this with you, because it will be able for you also to use this Python code and to easy call the API using your own simple Python scripts and call the right functions. We decided we're going to share this code with you. So here's the link to my GitHub page. And after this call, well, probably by the end of the day, I will put this code on there, both API wrappers, and please feel free to download them, to fork them, to modify, to adjust, whatever you want to do. We want to share this with you so you can do your own API calls and see how easy it is to get some information from or to push some information to the products. So feel free to do so. A little bit on our logic and our use cases. So there are actually two things we're going to do. First of all, we will look into SentinelOne. Our integrator will check with SentinelOne if there are new threats available. So the attacker will attack the host, will attack the system, and we will see that there is a new threat. Once that we see that, so we take that threat in, we will process that information, maybe query some additional information from SentinelOne, and we parse that into a risk update for Silverfort. So every entity involved, the user, the machine, which is involved in this threat, we will parse it and we will push a risk update to Silverfort. From that moment on, Silverfort will add additional policies, so policies will be activated dynamically due to this risk, to this raise into the risk, and certain policies will become active and more MFA will be enforced on those systems that are involved. The other way around, there is also a check for the MFA blocks. So if a certain user on a system does too much blocks, we're going to read this, we're going to constantly analyze, and if we see that this hits our threshold that we configure, of course, we will say, okay, this is enough. This is too much blocks in a short amount of time. Something is really bad going on with this user, and we're going to instruct SentinelOne to disconnect all agents, so not the agent, but the host on which the agent is running, involved in this user activity and in this malicious activity. So we're not only enforcing additional MFA, but we're also kicking out the hosts which are probably infected. That is our goal of our integrator that we wrote. Maybe just short, a little more in depth on what exactly we are looking for in terms of MFA. We basically built an MFA queue. So MFAs are coming in, multi-factor authentications coming in from Silverfort. We get accepts, so we get blocks. MFA that are accepted and are blocked by the user, Davy or Stan, for example. And this is, for example, a queue that we can have, as a set of accept and a set of blocked MFAs. And we look at the time window. And when a new block is coming in, like this one from user Davy, we look at the last 90 seconds. And if we see, in this case, that there are 3 blocked MFAs in that last 90 seconds for the same user, there is something really wrong. This user has been blocking all those MFA requests so in a very short time period. So we say this is fishy, something is bad. And this is what we trigger on. So user Davy blocked 3 MFAs in the last 90 seconds. So we decided, since this is happening, we check on which machines is user Davy logged in, and let's disconnect all those machines. That's the use case we have. We don't say that's the ideal situation. It's just what we built using API calls, what we built in our integrator to say, okay, that's what we want to do. And that's what we're going to demonstrate also in our demo. And you will see live when the attack happens. We will mirror also the phone screen to show you the MFA requests, and we're going to block them. And then if everything goes well and Murphy is not in the house, we will normally see that this disconnect will occur. So with this said, I think we can move over to the demo.
Okay, so David talked a lot about integration, which, by the way, he wrote himself. I was just there for the ideas and to help him implement it, but he's actually all the brains behind his operation. So kudos for David. But okay, how does the attacker work? Well, actually, we control both in this demonstration. Of course, we're both the victim as the attacker. But our attacker is hosting a malicious website. He actually just bought it last week. It's called covidupdates.be. It gives you information about COVID, or at least that's what the victim will think. So he will host that malicious website and also the command and control server. Okay, so we got a victim waiting for an email on his private email. So okay, here in this case we already bypassed your mail security appliances because we're just going to use private email, which a lot of those users still actually open on their enterprise computers. So we're going to send a nice phishing email, which Gmail will just allow. So a small FYI, after I registered the domain, it was spam, and 24 hours later, I sent a new email, and it was accepted. So far, the well-good protection of spam for Gmail. So Davey is our user. He's going to click on a link because he really likes to reserve his new fast testing for COVID-19. Chrome exploits will happen and launches a meetup reader, and the attacker now will have access to the victim. Why do we use Chrome? Well, because it's a widespread browser, and even last November there were over 2 remote code execution exploits that were actively used. So I'm not bashing on Chrome at all because they actually patch very fast, but yeah, you have to patch all your Chrome applications in your environment also, which will take some time. They were actually also used in the wild before a patch, and yeah, Chrome is actually almost an entire operation system. You can do everything in Chrome. So the more features they add, the more exploits they will also be having. So that's the use case. We're going to click on a link. It will open the remote shell, and the attacker then can go on that environment. So with that being said, let's go to our management pane of SentinelOne first. For this attack, we're going to run it completely in detect-only modus. Okay, so this is a policy for our victims. I'm searching for a mouse. Sorry. There it is. So we're going to use detect-only. We were behavior-based, so I'm going to say just those default inspection engines. I'm just going to disable it so I can show you that we do actually all of this behavior-based. We have two thresholds, suspicious and malicious. In this case, we're going to use an exploit, and SentinelOne will discover it, so it's automatically malicious. But it could be that if it's a new exploit or a brand new attack, that it will only trigger suspicious, because if we trigger too fast, you'll get false positive. But that trigger of suspicious could already increase the risk in Silverfort. We can automatically disconnect the client from network, but that's something you don't want to do maybe for a suspicious threat. And when there's when it's for your CEO or anyone who's doing a live webinar, maybe you don't want to disconnect that network at that time. So we want more information before we do that, and then we can leverage Silverfort to do that actually. So we're going to run completely behavior-based, detect only, so we will see everything that's happening, but we won't block anything. Okay. Now I leave the word to Davey.
Yes, so this is the Silverfort dashboard. Of course, it's a demo environment, so there's not a lot of activity going on here. I just quickly want to show you the users and the system involved. So the Silverfort works with the risk engine, as we said, and the risk score is actually defined for a user and system. So for example, the user Davey, that's our victim, has a medium risk at this moment, 2 risk indicators. We've been playing around a little bit, but there's nothing special here. There's no mentioning of any malicious activity. We also have an administrator account, which will investigate the problem that Davey will mention later on. Also, that user has a medium risk, so nothing special there. Maybe also to show you that this one is domain admin. So this is the admin account, which is responsible for the environment, and ADM Davey works on the help desk. Our host involved is Windows 10 domain 01. This is a Windows 10 machine, has no risk indicators. Everything is fine with that one, low risk. So we see here that in terms of Silverfort, everything is on a pretty nice risk level, and our policies are dynamically built, which means that they do not activate anything that is below high. So everything which is high or critical will actually become activated and will enforce MFA. But for now, we can see that we are all good and ready to go.
Okay, perfect. So a quick view on our incidents now. It's empty, so that's good. We don't have any incidents right now in our environment. So now we can start the actual demo part. So some explanations. Top right, we have our Metasploit console. So this is our attacker who will actually run everything live at that point. Right bottom, we see the live feed of Davey's cell phone.
Which I'm trying to unlock.
Which he tries to unlock.
I need to wait 26 seconds.
But he locked himself out, so he needs to wait 20 seconds, but we got time. This is our script that's running, so this integration script that is running.
Yeah, still running. Yeah,
okay. Still running. And here is our Windows environment of our unsuspicious user who got an email. So that's our trigger. So first, the attacker will set up the exploit. I'm going to copy paste so I don't make any errors in my typos. So what I'm going to do now is use a model, default model Metasploit, to actually start a web server hosting that malicious payload, so that exploit. Some extra information to set the URL and on what port he must listen to. Of course, an attacker can choose to use port 443 to HTTPS, put a certificate to make it complete. If you take your time and you will tweak this, then it's very hard to catch this type of malicious attack. based on network traffic at least. So okay, now everything is set up. I'm going to use run. And now it says server started, and it's going to listen at a certain IP address /reservations.
Okay.
Meanwhile, user Davey will take over.
Yeah. So I'm working on my workstation here at the left, top left, on my Windows 10, and I'm checking my Gmail, and I get a nice info from a COVID update that I can make a reservation for my COVID vaccination. It's a nice Dutch email. It's pretty nice. Looks everything is very no typos. Good Dutch text. So which is my native language. So yeah, that is definitely okay. So I can click here on this link to register. But this is something very fishy. So we can see in the Metasploit console that a session has been opened. Meterpreter session 1 has opened right here. And we can also see that our tool actually detected it. So a new SentinelOne threat was popped up, which we also saw here on the SentinelOne agent. And then we updated immediately our risk. So Windows 10 DOM01, that's the one I'm working on, and I'm the user Davey. Both have been detected as involved, and the value we decide is critical because it's a Chrome exploit attempt that is being detected. Maybe we should quickly show that also in SentinelOne. Stan?
Yeah, so I'm just going to refresh that page here. Yeah, those are the wrong filters, so the unresolved threat. So we see a new threat here. Okay, so he sees a Chrome exploit attempt. You will have some information about, so it's dynamic. He looks at it, it's completely fast attack. It's an exploit they're using. And for now, it's just that. He sees there's a penetration framework in use, so he recognized Metasploit. So that's it for now, because actually there's nothing that happened besides starting a remote shell.
If you look at Silverfort, because we, like we saw, scripted an update of the risks, because there was something malicious, and we could see here that for Windows 10, domain 01, there is now a risk indicator. It's actually coming from SentinelOne. There's a hack tool threat, Chrome exploit attempt in an interactive session. That's for the host. If you look at the user Davey, there we go. We also see critical risk. So that user has also received a risk update, suspicious threat activity. The user is logged on a suspicious host, a host that is involved in an attack. So we updated Silverfort, the risk engine, to make sure that those entities are flagged. Okay, Stan, back to you.
Okay. So now we got a Meterpreter session, but we are still in user mode. That could be enough. If you are satisfied with user mode, we're gonna go for system mode. Why? Because we're gonna run some, Mimikatz to get some credentials. That's why we're gonna try to do privilege escalation to actually get full access to that system. And because user Davey is, and I can show you that actually. So let's get a list about our sessions. Okay, we got an active session. You can see it's user Davey. Sorry, like this. So you can get some info about it, or you can use a shell. And then you can see, am I a member of those administrators? And you will see Davey is actually a member of that administrator. So that's good to start with.
I shouldn't be a domain admin actually, but okay, never mind.
Let's skip this. So okay, that's good to know that we have someone who's local admin. Because he's local admin, we can do some other stuff also. We can try to actually go for the privilege escalation. So let's try to do that. We're going to use an exploit for that. It's a bypass UAC exploit. So if you're local admin, you can use that on a Windows machine. And what we will do, we will leverage the fault helper executable, something from Windows, which we will set to start a new shell with better privileges. So okay, now I'm just gonna set my target. So I'm loading these exploits. And when I run this, He will start a new one. He saw quickly a PowerShell script running, so it's all fileless, completely files attacking PowerShell. He uses a native Windows application to bypass all security. So if I now see, okay, I'm user Davey, and with the get system, it's a built-in technique of Metasploit, which you can use to do that privilege escalation. We now see we're completely system. So now it's actually game over for that device because we have full access and we can do everything we want. One of the things we like to do is do enumeration. So we want to know, okay, I have access to the system. Are there any shares that I can access? So I see, okay, that's interesting. There's a share located at this location. Let's try to access this. So let's load in PowerShell in our MediaPrinter agent. So I'm running, So I'm running PowerShell, and let's try to go to that directory.
And we actually get an MFA for that because we have multi-factor authentication active policy for CIFS. And I'm a user saying, no, that's not me. So I'm going to block this out.
So access blocked. Me as an attacker, okay, that's strange. I thought I saw a share there. I should have access, but apparently something happened. So, okay, so with user Davey, I'm not having enough. I'm not satisfied as an attacker. I'm going to try to search for some.
Interrupt here, sorry, Stan. You also see at the left side bottom that our program actually detected that blocked MFA. So we didn't only, Stan is trying to attack, he got out, he didn't got access to that share. And our program detected a blocked MFA for that. You can see also that it tried twice, and that's the background doing that. But user Davey got a blocked MFA at this moment, but there's no action needed. It's a one-time block. Everything looks okay. It's just blocked out. Okay, Stan, sorry.
No problem. So indeed, we got the block MFA. As an attacker, I'm not satisfied because I want to actually get somewhere. So let's try something else. Let's try to see if there is anything of value in this network. So now I'm going to try to enumerate the servers. So again, we're going to use a module and look for any servers here that may be of use for us. We get a result. Okay, we got the main controller and a lot of other different devices, so those servers, and that would interest me. As an attacker, I want to try to go lateral movement, so I want to make sure that I could get on one of those servers. In the meanwhile, our user is actually complaining because his Chrome is not responsive. He got threat indicators, so he calls the help desk, and then Davey, the help desk guy, kicks in.
Yeah. So I'm switching functions now. I'm now the help desk guy. And Stan, can you give me a mouse?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I have my help desk machine here, and I get a call from the other Davey, the victim, who said, I think something is wrong with my machine. Can you take a look? So yeah, I'm the help desk. So I say, oh, no problem. Let me just take over your computer. Let me log in and let me just see what is going on. So I do a remote desktop connection to that machine. That should be the right credentials. There's nothing special going on with my administrator account. So I'm just going to log in and I'm going to see. So he needs to allow me in. The user allows me in, and I'm opening a remote desktop session. Now we see here that our program at the left bottom, actually that it's a very slow login, it works, there we go, sees that he updates the risk of the user ADM Davey, so the help desk admin account. Why? Because I'm logging in on a suspicious host, and like we said, we want to make sure that everyone involved in this suspicious system gets a risk update. So we did it right now. If we go to the Silverfort console and we look for ADM Davey, we will see now that he will also have a risk, critical risk at this moment, because he just logged in on a suspicious host. Now you can ask yourself the question, why? Is that something wrong? Stan will show why this is dangerous.
Well, okay, so I'm now at a victim's PC, and I'm clearly can't do anything with his credentials. So now I can either wait, or I can actually push that user to call someone for help, so that someone actually logs in his PC. It's a demo, so now I know ADM Davey already logged in, but you can think about it. You can find a use case how you can bully that victim for calling IT support. So we call IT support, and what we can do in that case is actually going to use Mimikatz. Mimikatz is a cool tool that actually can scrape credentials out of memory. What we're going to do is do a PowerShell import, so completely fileless again. We're going to use a PowerShell script, and we're going to use the invoke Mimikatz script. So now I imported this, so now I can use this the functions of that Mimikatz script to do a one-liner, actually dump all credentials on this system. Okay, so this is running now. So invoke Mimikatz is running and dump all credentials that you can find. And those are a lot of credentials. So let's skip through them because they're not all that important, but let's go find for that admin account. We see some stuff of Davy, but I'm interested in an admin account. And usually, most companies use some I cannot find the right
naming
term.
convention.
Naming convention, thank you, Davy, to say this is an admin. So that's easy for us. ADM Davy, I cannot see the password clear text, but I can see a hash. Okay, with a hash, we can do a lot of stuff. We can do a pass hash attack. So we don't need to decrypt the credentials. We can actually just use that hash for an attack. Now, we made ourselves easier, and in this use case, we actually just use this hash, and we're just gonna decrypt it offline. So as an attacker now, I have this hash, and I'm going to use it offline to decrypt it. You can power up some instances on Amazon, and you can run this against libraries with John the Ripper, and then you will get the password. So based on this hash, we can get our password, or we can have a different attack and use that hash. It's up to you. We chose to have the password decrypted. So that's the next step. Okay, now I've got those credentials of a domain admin. What will I try to do? In this use case, I'm going to try to use psexec. So I'm going to upload psexec on that system to the C directory, so just root C. And I'm going to use PowerShell to actually execute psexec. Let's change our directory. And as you can see, psexec is written right now on this directory. Okay, so I got psexec. I got a target because I did my enumeration. I know where the servers are. I got the names of that server, and I've got the credentials of ADM Davy. So that's all in this one-liner. I'm gonna run psexec. I'm gonna accept any stuff I need to accept. My target is that server, users admin Davy, and I decrypted that name, that password based on that hash. And this is our host name. This is the command I'm going to run. I'm going to run the command host name just to show that I can go lateral and execute codes on that server based on this credential. Enter.
Now I'm a user, I'm an administrator, and I get this MFA, but I'm not doing anything. So this is weird. So I say, no, that's not me. I'm blocking this. This is a weird MFA request. In the meantime, Stan, as attacker, got blocked, so his PowerShell just drops out, and we see our program at the left side saying, oh, there's a blocked MFA. It's a 2-time with an auto response and stuff like that, but it's still okay. But Stan is moving on. He says,
let's try another server. The credentials are okay, so let's try another server. Maybe something went wrong. Let's do it again on another server.
Boom. I'm getting another MFA. I'm saying, no, this is not me. This is very strange. So I block it again. Our program detects another block, and we get a threshold. We got 4 matches blocking MFA logs since the last timestamp. Since the last 90 seconds, we are looking at since the last block coming in. So we check which system are we logged in. We are on the Windows 10 domain 01, and we are on Windows 10 02. You can see here at the top, at the bottom left. So we disconnect both of these hosts from the network. That's what we decided in our integration program to do. Again, that's something you can do. You can decide yourself what you want to do, what threshold you want to use. But we decided to disconnect them. We gave that instruction to SentinelOne, and look at the top. We just lost our remote desktop connection. These hosts, both of them, are actually gone. They are disconnected from the network because ADM Davy is suspicious and something wrong is happening with that account.
You also see for the attacker side, it's not responding anymore, which makes sense. I don't have access anymore and my meter preacher sessions. So as an attacker, you're completely locked out because they're quarantined, those endpoints.
Yeah.
If you take a look, I'm just going to start with SentinelOne, then we can do Silverfort. If you take a look at our status now, network status disconnected. It was not in my SentinelOne policy. I did not do it manually. It was triggered by the API. And you can see SentinelOne saw the privilege escalation, saw the evasion of the registry key, the credential theft of LSAS. It's all been noted by SentinelOne, but the combination with Silverfort actually gave us a very fast ID. This is not okay. Let's stop this this attack.
Yeah, if you look at Silverfort, it will show you the logs, for example, of the last of this attempt. You will see here, besides some accepts, we can see here that we have a blocked MFA. We got an auto response after that because actually psexec is trying to log in multiple times when it's failing. Both are blocked by Silverfort actually in an auto response because we did a manual block. And then Stan, so this is to server 2. Then Stan tried again to server 3. We blocked it also. We get another auto response, and our threshold is on 4 within last 90 seconds of the last block for this user. So we see clearly that this was a trigger to like kick him out and make sure that every host that is involved for this user is actually disconnected from our network. So we did not only stop the attacker, we also made sure that risk got updated and that the admin account who actually made a mistake by logging in using a remote desktop, nothing special with that, but yeah, of course his credentials are in memory, and then Stan used that to try to move laterally. We blocked it all by using a combination of risk update and Silverfort and getting that info back to SentinelOne to kick out the relevant host. And now the attacker is getting nowhere, and we can start cleaning up everything properly.
Indeed, so that's one of the risks of using RDP to do actually assist your environment. It's one of the reasons why SentinelOne provides you the remote shell and the control version actually. Okay, we can see this attack, we see everything that happened. What we can do now is our mitigation actions, because we saw all the stuff that happens. We're just going to roll back everything. We're going to mark as resolved, and that's okay.
All right.
So it's a true positive, and then we can say, okay, reconnect this agent again because he was disconnected. David, something you would like to add?
Can you show something on the visibility in deep visibility, SentinelOne?
Okay, it's true. So this is every process execution starting from an attack in Chrome. Okay, so he maps out everything that's happened here. So everything we did actually behind that, the who am I typically to see, okay, who am I as a user? We should also see our local user group is administrator, and this is the command line I actually run as an attacker. So it's that complete visibility you will have. The fault helper, it's our exploit we use it to get that privilege escalation, and then the shell that started from that fault helper, and again complete end-to-end visibility about everything is happening. The psexec that we used. So yeah, even the location or destination at least, the credential that we use in command line. All that stuff was visible to SentinelOne.
Thank you. Yeah, if you look at maybe just the final part, if you look at the dashboard for our insights in Silverfort, we will see also here that the criticals are popping up. We have a critical risk going on. Agent Dev is involved. User Dev is involved. If you look at our top resources, oh, we're already back to low. Oh, because you resolved the issue.
Yeah, I resolved the issue already.
Resolved the issue, so we're reflecting back that everything is okay now with that machine because they resolved it in SentinelOne. I guess we also need to implement this, that our users also get a low risk. But just to give you an idea how both of these dashboards can help you out in getting an idea of what's going on, who is involved, and what you need to look into as a responsible in terms of security. All right, I think that we finished this properly on time.
Yeah, I think that covers everything. I think we showed you that the integration is not just marketing slogan, but we can actually enforce each other and make it a better product to combine those two. And that is possible for every use case you can think of. Both products have a great API, and it's just your imagination and the time to actually program it to actually achieve something. So thank you for attending. If you have any questions, please do ask them. We have time for Q&A.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes to get into your questions. So let me quickly see if there are anything popping up here. There's one question, if we can get some more information on the integrator. Maybe we can go back to the slides then, yeah, hold on, one second, that one. I'm not gonna go in full details. Oh, can I go back? So this part, so yeah, we're not going to be able to show you really in depth this code of core because it will be a bit too far going. But basically, the idea is that there are multiple threads going on, threads in the terms of process thread programming threads, so not a risk threads, which is a bit confusing. But basically, the integrator is running multiple parallel processes to check if there is information available from the API, to check if there is as a new thread, it does an API call to SentinelOne, give me the latest threads. As we've seen in the demo, a new thread was coming in. We get that in. We look at what information is in there, which agent is involved. We query again SentinelOne to get more information on that agent because it will tell us which user is involved, on what system are we, is this agent running that triggered this threat. So we do these API calls all in parallel. It's being processed. And we wrote a little translator from SentinelOne risk, which is like suspicious and malicious. Thank you. And we translate them into the low, medium, high critical risk that Silverfort is using. So there's a bit of translation going on there. Also for the second part, these MFA blocks, we process them using, if I go back, this is architecture slide. It's actually that syslog log/JSON flow where we get all that information, who blocked which one. And we process that, we parse it, and we look at we keep a timeline, and we do that in that queue that we described, and we look like, okay, this user, this host, we keep track of time, and then we call the API again from SentinelOne, tell the agent to disconnect this and this host. So that's basically a bit the architecture and the details behind it. If you want to know more about that, we can certainly get into another call for sure. There's another question. Made some screens. Okay, that's just some kudos from Shoot. Thank you. Where is the code hosted? Is a question. This code is actually, so we have a system, an Ubuntu system, which is running in the network. That Ubuntu system is running. It's running our code, so we just do the API calls from the network. So that is where we do the calls from. It just, it doesn't really matter. It's network based. You just need to make sure that you can call those APIs and that you can read the logs from Silverfort, of course. And as we said, there's also a question: will the code be available? I lost the control.
Yeah, on GitHub. So no,
I lost the mouse.
The wrappers are available on GitHub.
Yeah, the wrappers here are available indeed on GitHub by the end of the day. I would say after the slide deck, but I need to clean them up a little bit, get some comments out, and then I'll put them on GitHub. It's only the API wrappers. If you're interested in the code of our integrator, I'm more than happy to discuss that with you. But it's, to be honest, a bit quick coding. We're not coding specialists also, so that's probably not always according to the perfect development rules. But yeah, more than happy to discuss it with you. Then I got one for you here. How can you run Mimikatz without the endpoint security detecting it?
But we do detect it. So let's go to our SentinelOne page. If we look at our overview, so our threat indicators is what we see happening on that device, and we're mapping it to the MITRE framework. We actually see that someone tried to read sensitive information from LSAS. So LSAS is the process responsible for your authentication of your passwords and users. And we see that there's a process actually try to access LSAS.
Actually, it's part of our use case. The idea, of course, you could say, I'll put this in a prevent mode and block it out immediately. But that's not always the best approach. You want to be sure that you get some more information on what is really going on before you kick out a host. Because, like we said before, if this is the machine of a CFO doing important work and you just kick him out at a very wrong time, that is a very short career move, for example. So it's you want to be sure, like what is going on here, and is this really necessary to kick out that host? So instead of like immediately letting SentinelOne disconnect the host because something is going on, we just instruct Silverfort to apply a lot of MFA for this user. So whatever this user is doing, he will need to confirm MFA, and the attacker doing that lateral movement also triggers those MFAs. So that is the idea of this use case. We're on the detection mode to make sure that we see what is going on. And besides like being very radical and kicking him out immediately, we just gonna put Silverfort in and say, okay, you know what, this user, we think it's suspicious, let him confirm whatever he's doing using MFA. And if he accepts his connections, he can still work. But if he blocks, like we did on the attacker, we did not only stop the attacker, but we also made sure that we did then kick off the host later because we noticed that someone was attacking him.
Yeah, if you see at the threat indicators, and we map the MyProtect framework, we look at behavior, and if there's a brand new attack, completely new, maybe we miss the first part, so we miss the exploit because it's brand new, nation state based, whatever. But there's some behavior patterns we're still gonna see. We will see they're gonna try to use Mimikatz, and if there's a newest version, maybe we don't see that Mimikatz exactly, but we will see something else, a bypass UAC. It's a combination of behaviors we will notice and then we will trigger on. And maybe that trigger is then only suspicious. And then with extra information that Silverfort provides us by those blocked MFAs, we're now for certain that there's a malicious attack, and then we can quarantine it. So it's two products that are enforcing each other and taking it to the next level.
All right. If there are no more questions, I'm not seeing anything extra coming in. So I think that if there is no more, anybody, then.
By the way, Koen, the reason why Mimikatz was not blocked because we were running detect only. So of course, if we run running protect mode, we will block Mimikatz from running. So because that's behavior that we notice and we see the attempt to read information, we can block that, we kill those processes, and those are remediation steps we can take. Our mitigation actions is to kill that process. So if we see a process accessing LSAS and that's something suspicious, that process, because there are processes who may access LSAS, but in this case, our media breeder, of course, cannot access that. We kill that process and we quarantine everything that attacker drops that point. So that's how SentinelOne can block Mimikatz from running. It's a good question. So, okay, guys, I think that was the last question.
Yeah, no more questions.
So you have no more questions, okay. So if you're interested in one of the two products, just please reach out to us, or in both, even better. If you have any interest in the code of Davy, buy him dinner first and then ask him. But anyway, if you need something from us, just contact us. We will provide you the slides, and a recording will also be available. So you have all the information for the next steps. So, okay, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, goodbye, guys. Thank you.